I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Anybody who's not, everyone is on board with the present. Item C, approval of the agenda.
If there's no recommended amendments, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We move to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0. Comments for superintendent?
No.
Okay. Comments for president? I have none. Consent agenda.
Move we approve the consent agenda. Second.
Moved and second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0. Comments from the public? Anybody have any?
We do not.
Item H, parents as teachers.
So you've got some documents in here, and yes, we did go back and look, and it was about a year ago. It's not often very many to do that. Thing I'd ask you to look at is, let's see, unit request form. There's also a report that gives you a little bit of an update of what they meant to. Does anybody, have you heard of parents as teachers before? It's really an early intervention thing for families, idea of getting, early learning accomplished in home, making transition to school a little easier, transition to preschool a little easier. Generally speaking, you're talking about at-risk families who meet certain qualifications. And if you look on the unit request form, we contracted before. We're going to do that again. Levi, what is that?
27,000, I believe.
I'm recommending we do it again. 97,000.
No, 27,000.
27,000.
97 would not be in the budget.
So, so we have a line item in the budget to take care of that. I recommend we do that. You know, honestly, it's really hard to evaluate exactly what the impact is. Because there's really no assessment other than some maybe dialogue or some, you know, information from families, which we do not get to know who those families are. So, if you would like to, I would be glad to have Tracy Hinton come and present to you sometime this fall. Didn't want to necessarily do it at this one, but it's an ongoing thing. We've done that for the last 7 years. There was a time before that, probably before some changes were made, that the district did not do that. I think that my thinking was students or families were taking it that were actually in the program were not families that probably needed to be in the program. Further, but that again was probably the one. So we did work with the Keystone folks and got some assurances made, and that is the type of those are the families that they have members who have those stressors, those needs.
It would be nice, just, I know it's gotta be anonymous, but it would be nice to find out how many families are they engaging with, and do they fit in the profile, and just a little bit of a progress report, I guess, to see how well it coincides with what we hope it's doing.
You should also have a sheet called PAT report 3rd quarter.
Does that have everything I just said?
Not everything, but some of those.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's called the Keystone.
Oh, yeah, it's
Keystone
all
report.
there, yeah.
So it does tell you a little bit of families. Families with high needs, retention rate. So, you know, it's certainly not optional thing. Families certainly don't have to do that. It's not something the court steps in and says, say, it's not like family preservation is. It's totally wrong.
So what is this Keystone?
Keystone is a consortium, and they're down in Topeka. A little bit like Greenbush at a much smaller scale. It was the only thing that we do with Keystone. Basically, we did have to we're not big enough to want to try to hire a person to do that on our own. And pay that person for that person, all of that. So we do not we don't have economy of scale to do that. So we like a lot of 1 through 4A districts working consortium. They hire them, we pay kind of for the percentage that we use. That makes sense.
So it's Tracy,
Henson?
but she is hired through Keystone.
Yeah.
and-
She works for Keystone. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a daughter graduated here, you were probably 3 years ago. Ellie? Yeah, Ellie was the last one, I think. Yeah, and then there was another one before. Mhm. Yeah. So she's in the community, one thing that she and I talked about is just trying to give me a little bit of an update more frequently. So it doesn't seem, so Ron said, I don't remember doing this before. We did, it's just tells us we don't maybe have the communication that we might have. So I have talked to her about that and she has said, hey, just let me know. When you want to do that, we can do it.
I think it'd be nice. And more.
She'll be able to tell you stories, something that she does.
Yeah. So do we need to approve that
I would
action?
have a gas station.
Do we have Gina and the motion to approve the parents and teachers program? Second. Moved in second to approve the parents and teachers program. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0.
Does that go up through all the way through pre-K?
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
They work with families with kids that have kids in it.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of all part of the same path, for family, family.
Yeah.
District handbook and classified handbook and substitute teacher.
Yeah, so we've got 3 handbooks. The one that involves students in this was the health handbook. That's why I had to do we had that one last week. The other one's actually kind of like our negotiated agreement. That is a master agreement that we'll talk about later tonight is a handbook too. We don't do the first and second read on that because it's interesting staff. So the sub handbook, we updated that. Really, the big differences are, I put some notes in there. You know, they can get an activity pass if they work a certain number of days. That's prescribed in there. A new pay rate, you want to be aware of that. We raised from 130 a day to 140 a day. A billion years ago when I said I got $40 a day. I got 3 months. Can't do it. Can't do it. So, but anyway, new pay rate and just updating some information, who you call for this, that, and other things. So we also did a little bit of some reminders of some flexibility needs that the district reserves the right that if we have somebody come in and they're there for the morning and we need to shift the responsibilities, we can do that. And another thing, you know, towards the side of substitutes is this one happens a lot, like in certain situations, we contract or have somebody come in, they're gonna come in next Thursday, then they get here and they find out actually teacher will be back after lunch, it's just a half day. That's kind of inconvenient. You know, when we did this, maybe I could have a full-time sub gig somewhere else. So we've made it to where basically if you'll choose to go ahead and work and wherever we put you, then you can still get that. So that's there. But substitute handbook, that's pretty much it. That's really the changes. The classified personnel handbook, let's see. Payday is different in both of those. We have moved our actual payday. It used to be a little bit of an off thing to figure out a certain Thursday after a certain number of days. I'm not sure if the moon is part of that or not, but it is very certain now. It is the 20th of every month unless 20th happens on a Saturday or Sunday. Either way, in those situations, payday's that Friday. We're not going to do the deal where you get, well, you got to wait an extra day. Right. So it has been moved to Friday. So it's Friday the 18th, and that's what it is. But the latest will be the. So really, there's not much. A little bit of some leaves type of stuff. We had some big clauses in there about how we wanted certain things to happen leave wise, and actually kind of change it along with that. So, but anyway, we'd ask for your approval for those handbooks. You've already looked at the health handbook. The big thing there too was really the over the counter. That was the big over the counter meds. That was the big change there. The districts going to that. Larger districts have been doing that. So I think it's a good thing in the end. We'll find out this year how well that works. I don't predict it's gonna cost us a lot of money. There's over-the-counter medicines are not very expensive, especially in Bible. What about questions for handlers?
I had a question about handbooks that was related to student handbooks. I know it's not for this discussion, but it said something about no food or drinks will be allowed in class. Does that include water bottles?
No.
Okay.
It's not.
Okay.
Allow it. We have the chiller fillers everywhere.
Mhm.
Anybody want a motion to approve the handbooks? So. Okay. The moving second to approve the handbooks as presented, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0. You all need superintendent's reports. Oh, yeah, that's.
All right. Tim is over here too, and I'll have him kind of chime in. I want to give you just an update. Hey, we had new teachers last Wednesday, so we've got a good crew. There's some experience in there, a very lively crew. Got a good day together. Convocation, I want to thank those of you who were able to attend. I think it went really well. You know, there are certain components that probably can't replicate every year that probably help ensure the success of that convocation day, but we probably can't replicate that every year, but nonetheless, comments were heard. It was a good start. There was some Thanksgiving for that morning as well. So convocation teachers are back today and tomorrow are teacher work days. Friday was in service, basically professional development between the buildings. Last Thursday afternoon, all of the certified staff are basically the teachers. I believe we had some paras there as well. We had a few paras attend, correct? And administrators, myself included. We had 3 hours, I guess it was, of our instructional initiative that was started last year, playing back instructional practices and strategies. It's a long series, really designed to give us key indicators, what has the greatest effect size of instruction. Really work on developing those skills, so maybe things that we know don't work, or things that we just like to do that we don't know. So giving our instructors an opportunity to see what is improving to work, and to figure out how that best works in your classroom. So we just finished the second 4 sessions. The third one, later, it would be late fall. Is that correct?
November 1st.
Yeah, November, and then we will not have another one until next fall. So, one thing that we've talked about at our administrative team, putting together a little bit, it's a walkthrough tool. You walk in, you've got a electronic tool on an iPad, and really we're going to look for those types of things as we learn them. We think whatever is observed, you get what will happen, and so we're starting to put that together. We've got the tool. We'll have to work on that as administrators for a little while and develop some consistency, some fidelity. And, but we'll be using that this year as well, kind of monitor, see how well we're implementing that. There was a lot for people who have been away from school all summer. They said we've gotten that. Sure, they reached out and learned, and I'm looking forward to continuing on with that. All right, one other thing before I get to facilities, you do have a couple things. You've got your pass, activity pass, and later on you'll get, now that is just our district pass, correct? Yeah. Later on, you should get your league passes. They don't have those for us, and Kevin has those for us. It's usually not very good. But you'll have those. So by September board meeting, if not earlier, you'll have those as well. You also have a card advertised KASBN with convention in Wichita. So I know one of you has already reached out with interest. So if you are interested, just know we've reserved 3 rooms for board members. They reserve more than 3. We seldom have more than 2. I don't know if I've had 3. I don't recall having 3 ever, but 2 is usually the number we have, but I want you to know that we've got 3. And so we've got room for 3. So if you're interested, get with me, I'll get you registered. So facilities, we've had a lot going on, and Tim, are you back there? There's Mr. White. So the stadium lighting project is complete now. Hopefully you've been able to drive by and take a look at that. Mitch, have you seen it tonight?
Yeah.
You were able to see that?
Yep, good.
And you know, the one thing, it's not like the days when you could see the football field from a mile away. It's like that. Those lights are very much focused. There's nothing to bleed over. Another interesting thing is we have an app, and that's how we'll turn it on 95% of the time. Certain folks in our district will have that on their phone, and they can turn the lights on and off. That way they can dim them. We do not have a light show. We do not purchase that.
Different color.
Our light show is bright, not bright. There you go. We can turn it back and forth. I don't know how responsive that'll be, but anyway, that's what we're doing. So, but we can still turn that on and off at the box. You can still do it that way. If something happened internet wise, we couldn't do, or your app didn't work, it failed, and still can open it up there. If somebody doesn't have a key to that, which not very many people do, we can make the call to Muscat. So, interestingly enough, when they did the testing for that, they tested it in the day. And they tested it for, and that's how it was all done. It's not turn it on at night and aim and adjust this. They did that all. I don't know exactly how. I did see them come on during the day. Not real impressive. Ben was there and took some kids up the field in the football coaches and.
Yep, that's great. And the addition of being able to see the track all the way around, people walking around, the other side is lit up so much better. Our bleachers are lit up, safety, it's just brighter. Like you said, it's focused, so it's in those areas, not just everywhere. So it makes it brighter in all the right places.
All right, I'm gonna save the big one for last. A lot of general finishing touches going on around the district as we prepare for school. Striping of parking lots, that's been going on the last few weeks. Tile repair at the middle school has been done over the common. That'll happen at the elementary, we believe tomorrow, right, Jan?
Yes,
I think, is Ross doing that?
yes.
And parking lot striping, like I said, but also parking lot repair, that back parking lot at the high school is done now. Looks good. We'll be driving on it and get those trucks back on the concrete. Do the test, I suppose, that way. All right, so bus barn fuel tank removal update. I think I told you a few days back that they began filling and now they're waiting for the compaction test. There's somebody called the dirt proctor. Right?
Dirt Proctor was approved today.
Oh, good, that was
Yeah,
approved.
Dirt
So,
Proctor was.
tell us
approved
what
today.
that means, that it was approved.
Basically, they take a 5-gallon bucket of the dirt that will be used as the fill. I guess I just need to gear, we better start everyone. That goes down to a lab where they actually will take the dirt and manipulate it and find out what the compaction capabilities of that dirt is. And that dirt that we are using has been approved. Company called Terracon was there today to be on site while they were doing some of the fill work. And they're doing compaction testing, make sure that we're getting the dirt compacted to at least a minimum of 95%. And everything that they tested today was at 100%, so it's solid. They did a fill today. Terracon will be back in the morning to do more testing on that fill, and then they should possibly be able to fill it in completely tomorrow.
So then once that's done, obviously you can't go pour a surface over that. That's gonna have to settle for some kind of compaction or not. I'd like to think that compaction might be sooner rather than it otherwise would be, but so we'll have some decisions to make what we're gonna do with that. I believe gravel is the first thing to do, is gravel that back. That obviously turned into a bigger project. It's like everything else. It starts unraveling and, you know, things to just kind of keep in mind. The area of concern was not the area we thought it would be at all, where our tanks were. It's apparently something else there at some other point in time. We did find those old fuel lines that were full of really old fuel, and they led to basically a fill area. We can only assume that there once upon a time been a tank there. We don't know that, nor do we know anybody who knows that. I imagine anybody who would know that might not really be with us anymore. So apparently that was there before. when the district purchased it, and probably had no way of knowing when that tank was removed, if indeed that was the case. Probably the regulations are much different than they. Just what's done. Either way is remedy. We're told by the consultant that basically the back hole that's there, not our dig where our tanks were, but that other will be covered. And, financially covered. It'll be covered, but financially covered. I imagine that looks more like reimbursement than it does a direct pay. So I have no idea what that is, where that sits right now. So there was a convoy of 6 trucks hauling dirt, correct? There were 6 trucks, huh?
Yes, total 6 trucks.
I don't know how many times they each went. We don't. Those are gonna be costly each time. But it'll be done right. There may be a situation where you have to have the test wells. We don't know if that's gonna be the case. Questions about that?
When do we know financial aspect of it, like whether it will be
Yeah,
covered?
I'm gonna guess when Luke gets us the bill.
Well, but when you have a contact with the state, then that's kind of reimburse.
Oh, yeah,
How that process
right, that's
is.
part of that, it's not a grant, but it's a fund, the trust, that's part of the trust, yeah. Could have went with the new on-site swimming pool at the time. It was easily 20 feet. Easily 20 feet. What we say, like 40 feet across.
In 1960.
Was it by the time we got done? Anything on facilities, questions on
I do,
facilities?
where are we at on the shop dust collection system?
Tim, we have somebody looking at that, but we don't have it, yeah.
I don't think that they have gotten us any information back.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
We follow up on that?
Yeah.
maybe?
Do you have the contacts you need for that?
Yes.
Then also, were we doing anything with the elementary school sound in the gym? We talked about trying to get something to help with the sound in there.
We've not done anything with that. I would say we need to do something about that. We need to figure out what we need to do with that.
You get that out of it.
That was it. Either one we don't talk, but yeah, there's definitely something to be done there. I don't know how valuable or how effective it would be, if you still have a hard surface in where it's sitting. So, we certainly do that, it's whatever it's gonna cost.
I mean, this is the second year we've talked about it, so I think that we need to really do something about that. Get it done, get something done.
We reached out to,
We talked about.
who was the interior, tech?
You asked your check.
Okay.
Thank you.
The questions facility was. All right, that's what I have.
Budget presentation.
I didn't take this minute here to get. You should see a couple items in there, one is 2099. Kind of a comparison of the last few years. It also describes legally when the budget period or when the R&R hearing is going to be, date and time, that type of stuff. You can see that is all set up to be in our September meeting. It is what, 9th? What's the day on September?
Let me check real quick. 9, yep.
Um, Oh, for the new one. That was that when you put the actual collection. What you got in your doc. It's like that. No wonder that he had to move on. Okay. Second top, Russell, and third. We have found some of your kids, and I put their pictures up there, the way I can see. And the kids are out, I think I've got it.
That's okay.
Yes, so, anyway, so this is, one thing to keep in mind. A budget is a projection, okay? It is not a final number, it is a prediction of sorts of what will happen this year, student enrollment wise, other things, other factors. And by the end of the year, things will look a little bit different. So, it's the thing about that projection, if you look on the code 99, the 2 years before compared to this year, you'll notice a difference. This year is projected. The other 2 years are actual. So that's what really happened. So at the beginning of those years, in this meeting, in those years, I gave a projected budget proposal as well. And in both cases, pretty much in all cases, it comes in a little bit under that. Now that happens for a variety of reasons. We never know what our final budget is until we have our final audited budget authority. That's the term, right?
You got it.
Yeah. And that's based on student enrollment and that head count that you take on the 20th of September. It'll get audited and audited and audited, and will get changed. Sometimes it works out in your favor, and sometimes it doesn't. That includes career tech ed numbers, how you count kids with seating time in that, free and reduced lunch numbers, students who ride a certain amount of miles on the bus or who are eligible for them to get some reimbursement on that. All those things factor in and out of that, but the magical date is what happens in September. Now, even though we may see a number on September, we don't have that for you. At the end of the year, that number could be different. So it does change. It's a projection more often than not. The final authority ends up being less than what the projected budget. Okay? Does that make any sense? When you do this budget, it is a balancing act. You got the needs of schools, you got staff and faculty, you got to pay for raises, pay for personnel. Facilities, that's primarily capital outlay, which includes things like buses, buildings, and any repairs, equipment, things like that. Property, of any sorts. You got your board goals to consider, and ultimately student learning, because all of those first four things are really about student learning. So again, final authority, projected authority would be different. All right, just some things to keep in mind. You've got, these are your funds that you have. Okay, the supplemental general, we generally probably have a little bit of local option budget. Capital outlay, we've talked about that just a little bit ago. We're talking about facilities, that's capital outlay. Bond and interest, so we still have one bond, that is, what year was that bond?
It expires in 2028.
No, what year was it?
2016, 15 or 16.
Yes. So we still have that one to pay off. So 2 years back, we paid off that middle school. Probably been 5 years. Just pre-COVID. It's probably 5 years. So we paid that one. So for a little bit, you had two bond and interest. So something to kind of keep in mind. Base state aid per pupil is a key term to remember. So how much money does a student, you're funded by students, okay? And you're funded by FTE students, full-time enrollment. So we want to look at our enrollment numbers. Obviously, 1,000 students is going to bring in more than 900 in most cases, unless the 900 have more students who get extra weighting, such as free and reduced lunch or special ed, or extra monies coming in due to career tech ed or due to transportation, things like that. So all students are not necessarily funded exactly the same. So it's important that we try to make sure that, you know, students families fill out a free lunch box, because that does impact them. Assessed valuation, you should probably know about that. So every year, what happens to our assessed valuation in most places, including here, up or down? Absolutely. So there are places where it goes down, but usually when that happens, something bad has happened. Plant is closed, something dreadful's happened to the housing market hard. It's a rare thing. And then our taxes are generated through mills. So. Everybody understands at least familiar with that. So it's preliminary factors, assessed valuation, you can kind of see it went up. It was over 6.5, 6.5 million difference there. This time it's about 3.5 million difference. Enrollment. So what's happened to our enrollment the last few years? It's gone down, yeah, and that's what's happening in the county population is. Now, 853.5 with an asterisk, that's projected, so we don't just pull that number out of the air. We basically look at the last few years and try to make a very educated guess. We can go ahead and make the budget on 1,000 or 10,000, no, 1,000. And this budget would be a lot larger. Again, what would happen at the end of the year? Would we ever have the authority to have that budget? No, we would not. It's going to still come back to what your numbers are. So you want to be pretty close to that. So that is the number we came up with. Just looking at a few different factors, you're trying to guess how many kids are still here. You look at the class that was graduating. Good luck trying to know who's coming in kindergarten. You can know a little bit and really never. Very hard things to figure. So. We try to get close. Usually we're pretty close. We don't want to overestimate that and then be disappointed. So we'd rather have to be the other way. However, if you undershoot it, then the only way you're going to get your budgeted authority is if you republish your budget. That's a lot of steps to it. So you want to try to thread the needle and be really close, or be so close that even if you really are entitled to a little bit more, it wouldn't be worth the money chasing. So okay, so projected for everything we're doing this year, that's projected. General fund, we can't do much about that. That's your 20 mils. Interesting thing about, your assessed valuation, it said, I think it's 152, right? 152 million, except in the general fund. It's less than the general fund by about 20.
It's about right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like 130 in
And
general.
that has to do with just putting it into the coffers at the state level and the equalization. So we don't have to put the same amount in. So my question is, are there districts that have to put more in the general than they put in on the others? I'm guessing they're all. I don't know any of the top one. I'm guessing. The general fund, it's 20 mils, that's stable. So, but has to do with the increase. If you get an increase in base state aid per pupil, is your general fund going to go up some because of that? Yeah, sure. We get more students, will your general fund go up? Yep. Get less students, will go down? Yep. Maybe it goes down, but you get more money in your basic aid per pupil. Maybe it balances out. All those things can happen. The LOB, that's calculated as a percentage. That's supplemental general local option budget. Historically, so it's a percentage of the general budget. So if our budget is more this year in the general fund than it was last year, would 30% get us more money than last year? 30% is bigger general budget, yes or no? Actually, the same thing is true, or the inverse of that is true as well. If our general fund is smaller, then that same 30% will bring in less dollars. That's when you look at kind of moving around there. That's why I'm going to recommend that we go to 31 this year, because that general fund is small. But yet it still costs the same amount of money for this year. Everything else, well, doesn't cost more. Everything costs more. I wish it cost the same. Being easier eating for us too. Yeah. But anyway, the state average is 32%. We've never gone there and don't really do that. I am recommending 31. So your revenue is on the LOB is impacted by the percentage adopted and the general budget. But at the end, those will equate out to, so the driver is the general fund, but it'll equate out to mill levies too. So that's what those mill levies will look like. So we recommended if we go with that 31% for mills, then mills are 16.78. Last year, projected that we did was 30%, but the mills were higher.
Because the general was bigger.
General was bigger. General was bigger. Yes, base state aid per pupil's a little bigger, but it wasn't big enough. However, remember projected versus actual, in the end, it only ended up being 16.8. And this year, maybe if it was adopted at 16,780, chances are it's probably gonna come in a little less. We'll know when we get there. Historical, our 6-year average is 17. Just what it ended up being in the last 6 years. Okay. Questions about that? So what is the supplemental used for? It's salaries, it's about anything we wanted to use it for. So it's primarily salaries and I don't know, Levi, what else is really big encumbers of LOB?
A
Depends on
lot,
how you want to do it.
yeah, a lot of technology stuff, sometimes, maintenance issues that aren't big enough for capital outlay necessarily. Legally, anything you can spend in general fund, you can use LOB for, so.
Capital outlay. So the board has authority, legal authority, you can go to 8 mills. You can do it, there's no protest vote, there's nothing like that. This board has not done that. I couldn't tell you when the last time they did that, if they've ever done it. Long before Ian's time, so far more than 11 years ago, and I bet it wasn't that way then either. One of the reasons we don't need to do that is because we have high assessed valuation for people. Okay, we don't have a giant number of kids with our assessed valuation. That's not necessarily a great fund for me. Think about it, because what that means for our districts, we received no state aid. Because we had too high of an assessed valuation for people. We received nothing. When I first got here, we were receiving a little bit in LOB. And then that dwindled and dwindled. 2 years ago, that last year may have been the first year with 0 state aid in there. Other districts get state aid in a bond and interest. We get 0. Others get state aid and capital outlay. We get 0. So we don't have that help coming our way. So, but historically, it's been 6 mills. Last year, in this meeting, the board adopted a budget that reflected a mill levy, not of 6, but 4.123. And that was an odd number, and that was done in an effort to try to remain revenue neutral. That's just what I calculated it to be. 4 was going to be just a little bit too much to take out, we would have been below revenue. So trying to be revenue neutral ended up being 4.123 versus 6 minutes. Now, doing that, basically we abandoned, if you will, the authority of about $241,000. So in capital. Okay, so that's what that equated out to, or it equaled out to. So 25.6 mils, or 25, fiscal year 25 is 6 mils, that's the recommendation. And that's 1.877, add the numbers up, that returns us to 6 mils. Okay. Works like everything that it comes with the cost as well. So this will probably be the biggest issue that we talk about tonight as far as the funds go. We can't talk about general fund, to be quite honest, the next one. You really can't talk about that one either. It's what you have to pay to get the bond down. We can see though in 19 it was 8.81, and you can tell right here that's where we paid off the most of this paid off. Down here, we refi. So we got a great rate. We refinanced that 2015 bond election, and for the last few years, this is what that mill rate is to pay it off. Right now, we're scheduled to pay 28.
May 28.
28. Now, interestingly enough, last year at this meeting, the mill levy projected was going to be 6.324. It actually ended up being exactly what this was. Exactly what it was for this year. Now, this is a number derived from factors. It's not, hey, let's estimate. It's not an estimate. It's basically you have to have a certain amount in reserve, and you have to have enough to make it. That's what that is. Yeah, we can't really. There's really not much to talk about. Unless you want another one. There's not much to talk about. Okay. All right. So off of code 99, comparing a couple things here. All right, comparing a couple things. The last 2 years, well, 20 mils. We've kept that the same. Nothing to do about that. And the LOB, you can kind of see that the difference in the last 2 years when we compare it to the year before. So the LOB, not that big of a difference here. capital outlays where the difference is on your mill rates. Projecting 6 compared to last year, that's an increase of 1.877. However, historically, we've been at 6, so in fiscal year 23, we were at 6, so there's 0 change in that. That makes sense. Bond and interest, yeah, it is what it is, and it's all pretty flat. That's flat. So if we look at total mills, which is one part of this formula, I consider this mills, so that's our tool for assessing. 49.102, that's projected again. And it likely end up being a little bit less than that. So that's a nearly 2 mils difference, 1.82 last year. And it's even just a half of a mil more than it was in 23. Okay. Now, let's talk about taxpayer income, because you know the mills generate money, and the same mill last year, 6 mills last year, if we had 6 mills, would generate less or more than 6 mills this year. Last year would be less. So it's also about the money that comes in from those. That was the whole point of revenue neutral, even though it doesn't always fit schools very well because of the 20 million from general fund. Okay. So fiscal year 25. So last year we had a slide on there of $250,000 home. So I made that slide again, and Ian goes, "Oh, wait a minute, but that home is not. It's worth more than $250,000. That's a fair assessment." So 2 different ways to look at it. Looking at straight 250,000 again. So if I bought a $250,000 home, then my increase would be $52.33 last year. However, if Ian owned a $250,000 home, that appraised value is not $250,000 now, it's more. So, and the same for other $250,000 homes, however, not the same percent increase. Kind of all over the place. If you look at the scrolls there, you'll see that some have a lot less than that, and some have more than that. So anyway, so of course the same property is now appraised higher. So to be fair, that's not the best way always to look at that. So we try to look a little bit deeper. Okay, so the green boxes just happen to be the one highlighted when the snippet was taken. That it's not, those are not significant at this point. Okay, you can kind of see the differences. So type A is ag land. Okay, C is commercial. F is farm home. So I would imagine a few of you have that. And that's what you have as opposed to residential. So obviously there's not going to be as many of those out there as residential. And there's residential out in rural areas too, right? Levi, you're out in rural areas.
Yeah,
You're residential.
Yep.
Yeah, you're not farm.
Right.
So I don't know exactly the components of that, but there are differences. You can see the percent of change. Now the percent of change, that 18.83 is not the average farm home went up 18.83. It simply means that the overall amount appraised in that bucket, if you will, pie, if you will, is 18.83% larger. Okay. O is other. I don't know exactly what other is. Go look that up. I don't know exactly what it is. R is residential. Okay, it's 273. That's, and then last year it was 233. It's a 17.19% increase. Of course, that does not mean that your house went up 17%. And of course, it's going to be different depending on the value of your house and several other factors. But and then B is vacant property. You can see there's not a lot of value in vacant property. We know that I have never really fully been able to understand how ag land is appraised. I talked to some folks who have ag land, and I think everybody's got a little bit of the understanding, but I can't tell you exactly how that's appraised. There's several different factors in that. Rolling average, I believe, is part of that. The type of farmland it is. It's predict. I just don't know more than that. Anyway, so overall, over here, I kind of use the property value of residential. AV is the appraised values in this case. So that number can be drastically impacted by certain properties. If you go through and look at the property scroll, you see, and I don't, nobody here recalls a bunch of spec homes being built here in the last year, right? I don't think so, but imagine if 10 homes were built here. What would that do to that number? Well, it would drive it up considerably, and that number would be greater than 17.19, for sure. The number is impacted by properties that are appraised at a different rate than they used to be before. We were looking at some that were like 3,000, and now they're 49,000. Some that were 70, now they're 170,000. I don't know the story on that. Maybe somebody built a shop or something on the property. Maybe there was a remodeling done. Maybe it was void before and it's been rehabbed. I truly don't know. A lot of different things we think could have that impact. So we did kind of take a sample near that 250 range, show an average percentage of appraised value increase. So it's about 9% is what we see. But there was a big range in that same price range, 3.41 to about 15%. I don't know how that is and why that is. Anyway. Just some notes about appraisal comments or questions. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have a question? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Rick, we good?
Yeah.
I wasn't looking over them either, so. So projected fiscal impact of this proposed budget. As far as now taking out the general fund. This budget is basically asking for $369,844 more dollars to go up the taxpayers than last year. Last year was an anomaly. We decreased that nearly 2 million. So of that, 300,000 of that is capital outlay. So the rest, the LOB is 48,000 of it, bond and interest, 21,000 of it. So it's mostly capital outlay. So really, the questions and the query here today is really about capital outlay. What do we do about capital outlay? So I'm going to finish up here. So in closing, it's about a mirror image to 2 years ago. Okay. Not to last year, but to 2 years. Compared to last year, the difference is capital outlay. From your one. I'm going to just, as we look at things, we have to recognize we have increasing payroll. We have utilities. Everybody has those. Fuel, everyone has those costs. Patrons do as well. Health insurance premiums. We went up 11.1, about 17 over the last 2% over the last 2 years. Property and casualty. Well, I'll tell you, back to health insurance premium, the difference between what I estimated of about, I said 9% was my estimate. We thought it would be 11%, was $40,000. We're at 40,000, just like guessing incorrect. When we went to negotiate, I really felt like we were going to have $40,000. Didn't work out that way. So health insurance premiums, property and casualty premiums, and you can't pay those out of capital outlay, but you pay those out of everything out in investment. LOB can pay for as well. When it comes to property and casualty and capital outlay, you can only pay your deductibles. You correct on that one?
Yeah,
Pay your deductibles out.
that's correct.
That's about it. So if we ever had a big storm come in, where would that deductible come from? They come from our capital. Overall inflation, of course. And then the other thing I do want to point out, we all recognize some facility and maintenance needs, and it's really about how do you want to prioritize the budget, how do you want to prioritize, whatever you do, your budget is setting your priorities, whether it's in LOB or whether it's in capital outlay, it's just setting your priorities. That's what it is. It's supposed to reflect that. That's really what you guys get to look at today and kind of think apart. So, question. So it's open up for questions and discussions out there on this one. What you got?
Ian? You're making eye contact.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So I got some comments. It's a complicated issue, when you look at the history of it and why the capital outlay got knocked down, last year and everything. The goal was to try to be revenue neutral on the side of local revenue, because the assessment had gone up 13.66% on residential property. Which is gonna affect the most people, and, you know, double-digit increases when everything else is, to Lonnie's initial point, you know, the base formula is valuation times mills equal your tax. So on the general side of things, being it set, we knew that we'd be passing on a 13+% increase there. So we couldn't do anything about that. The idea was to try to offset that to the largest extent we could. Hoping that big discrepancy between residential and ag would get smaller. I'm gonna share a little bit more why that matters. It didn't, it got bigger this year. But as we said at the time, we can't stay revenue neutral forever. It was kind of a hope that it would kind of reconcile itself. What's proposed here, and I'll pass it out, but I printed off basically what some taxpayer impact is. The slide about the $50, I know where they were coming from with it, the 250, but it's really, I think it's not intentionally, but it's misleading because it doesn't take into account any change in appraisal value on anything. And I'm sorry, I meant to print this off in 3, but I printed it off as 1. So we would put that. There's a couple, and I've got more, but I don't. The wind here. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I tried to highlight what was important. So hang on 1 second. Can I just steal yours? Who else doesn't have one? Okay. The hard thing is, so if you look at just what the increase is in the proposed budget, it's 9%, 9.1% increase in local funding. That alone, I mean, that's not terrible, but that doesn't mean that it's 9% to everybody. It's 9% to all different categories, because there's a huge skew, and there has been for like 3 years, in valuation increases. So we know this year was 17 points, whatever it was, 17.2%. Last year was 13.6. It just keeps getting compounded. And ag has stayed flat or gone down. And that's fine. But what that means is, if you want to have an average increase of whatever percentage, we'll say 9%, and you have part of the popular, or part of that makeup of where your revenue comes from, that's flat, and that's even or negative, and another part that's really high, that's how you get that average somewhere in the middle. And if you want to do that, that means you've got to put it on the backs of whatever the high part is. In this case, it's residential, if that makes sense. So let's say you have you want to get a 5% increase, and you've got somebody who's got a 0% increase, and somebody that's got a 10, that averages out to 5. So it ends up the brunt is bared by whoever has the greater increase. So what I did was I weighted that at, like, ag land makes up about 25%. Last year it made up a little bit more because it's actually decreased. Residential is roughly 50%. It's 48 or something. And because that went up, it actually made up a little bit more of it. So what happens is, by the time you weight that, and that's what I've got highlighted here, down at the bottom, in order to get that 9% increase in local funding, you've got to pass on an almost 15% increase in taxes to homeowners, to residents, which a couple of years ago, I think that people would have fallen out of their chair or something like that. We started to see these high numbers, but to me, that's I mean, I personally can't do that in good faith. A 1 year increase of like 15%. So what the rest that's on here is to play with that capital outlay number. We know we can't stay flat, right? So what Levi was so good to do was plug in, what if we stayed flat as far as mill rate, because we know assessment goes up. that it only increases capital outlay by like $15,000. It's 2%. It gives an overall funding. That's the one in the upper right of a 2% local increase. We know we're going to fall way too far behind with that. But by doing that, that's only a 2% increase for the district, but it's still 7.5% for homeowners, right? And that's just a function of it when you've got this huge skew between different assessment groups. So the other thing to try that we just did, and then you can throw whatever number in there, was 5 mils. It's an increase over the 4.123. That's about about a 4.5, which in normal years you'd think 3 to 5% increase keeps up with everything. We know that's not the case. We would still fall a little further behind. We'd still have to tighten our budget a little bit relative to our expenses in those cases, but that passes on a 10%. It's 10 to, yeah, sorry, it's probably made by the highlighter, to residential taxpayers. And to Lonnie's point about that's not a dollar for dollar increase in houses, because you do have the pieces that made the pie a little bit bigger. You've got new construction, you've got actual improvements, but we all know
We
that.
also have- Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
There was- Y'all got the letter, right, from the appraiser's office in March, that said that they were unfair across the county. and
Yeah.
Everybody's appraisals went up to equalize. So it's,
Right,
I hear what you're saying, but there's a lot of this that isn't in our board control.
right.
We don't control the appraiser box.
No, but we do control the mill levy. And when you have A times B, that equals.
You do, but, well, you can't control A.
Right, but you can, but so it wouldn't matter. See, the thing is, Jackie, it wouldn't matter if everybody's assessment went up 3,000%.
Well, that's not what my.
You could, yeah, you can, yeah. Well, mine went up 22% in the last 2 years. That's around that $250,000 mark. But what you do is where our role is to manipulate the mill levy to have a responsible increase that
And
keeps
provide
up.
a safe environment for our students to learn.
Right.
And how much of this has been done?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And so, but the thing of it is, you've got, so where was I? I was starting to go through the third one.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So 10%, because part of it, I mean, we all know that it's the increase in housing prices that really have done this. It's not new construction out there. There's not new developments in this and that. It's prices have gone up and then they've been passed that on through your appraisal value. So it's probably effectively a little bit less than 9. It's still higher than anybody would like to see, but maybe that's the balance going to 5 mil capital outlay and without really breaking up putting it on the backs of the homeowner too much. I mean, I think that just because we can force people to pay it because we have the authority to government doesn't mean that we can say the district gets to be made whole and everybody else has to just figure it out by passing on a big tax increase. So anyway, that's where I'm at from it.
This proposal. That Bonnie just went through. Is a 1.82% increase.
In capital.
Mill, not percent.
Mill.
It's about a 50% increase in capital outlay, but that's skewed because it's such a small part of the overall mills.
What's our current mill?
In capital outlay, 4.123.
So if we did 5 versus the 6 that was proposed,
So every year, the amount that equals a mill continues to go up, right?
right?
If your assessed valuation goes up.
Right, and so last year, we missed the mark by 240 grand.
That's what we would have had, what, 240?
If we'd have kept it at
We'd have
6.
stayed
So you're asking.
at last year's appraisal.
Basically, you lowered it last year to take the burden off of the increase in valuation.
That's right. That's
You're
right.
asking to go to 5 instead of 6.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that with? So basically you're taking into account, taxpayer and you're trying to thread the needle.
exactly. It's a balance. I mean, that a 10% increase in property tax in a given year is a lot, but
Well-
we can't leave it, where.
We can't sit here and say, well, we're gonna starve ourselves to.
Right,
I mean, you've gotta,
so it's trying to balance it.
yeah, no, I get it. But I mean, but back to like those valuations,
Mhm.
I mean. Are they making up for what ag has had to endure for the last 20 years?
Very,
Like,
very
if
well.
I go
maybe.
back and look, 20 years ago,
Mhm.
I was paying $10 to $12 an acre property tax.
Mhm.
This year it's like 40.
Right,
So that's a 17% increase if you just average that out over those
yeah, and
20
it's,
years. So I mean, it's not like, I mean, I think in the end, everybody's that's got property is paying their fair share.
right. It's
And-
not a judgment call on whether it's right or wrong. It's a function that when you've got two very different levels of change, right? That in order to have something in the middle, one's gonna be on the hook for most of it and one's not. That's not saying that ag doesn't pay their fair share.
No.
It's just saying that because you can only assess one tax rate, one mill levy for all of these, then that average is gonna be made up by your extreme ends.
No doubt.
Yeah,
If Lonnie wants to talk.
yeah.
You know, one thing I would say on the ag land, yeah, only a negative point, not 1% decrease. Of course, they don't make any more than ag, and they can make new houses and more houses into that if you want to change that appraisal percentage.
Right.
So I think they're apples and oranges and trying to compare them nonetheless, because they don't know that you can really make improvements on the land per se, other than your general maintenance, and you're always trying to max that out anyway for yield reasons. So, and you did say kind of just because we have this or have the ability.
Yes.
And I would point out, we also have a responsibility
Yes.
too. So, that you guys get to decide that, and you've got to figure out how to balance that. My job is simply to advocate for what I think is best for our district and our district needs and our students and all of it. That's what I'm gonna do here, and I'm gonna recommend that we do it 6, and me and I are gonna disagree. We've already talked. about
Yeah,
it.
that's fine.
We're good with it. But, I just want to make sure that you understand my point of view is, we took that bite we swallowed that in one bite last year, the two mills, nearly two. So what would it mean if we went to 5, or would it be 5 flat? That's not quite a mill increase, and that was the deal. Would mean you'd have some decisions to make. You do have, about HVAC needs over at the home, about parking lot needs at the house. So you're gonna have to figure out what we want to do there. Doesn't mean we won't be able to do anything. It doesn't mean we're gonna run around and do nothing, but understand that then now I look at that and say, we have a trend going, okay? And a trend where we bring in less money and have greater expenses cannot prevail for very long. So.
But that's not less money though. Let me correct you there.
Yeah.
It's still more than last year. It's
Sure,
less than it would be at 6.
Okay, but our expenses are greater.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what.
and you also have to factor in you've got 2 pretty old buildings and one that's newer, but it's still old. I mean, that's every year, those maintenance issues get more. I mean,
You look at that book they gave us that showed what needs to be replaced in the next 5 years. and There's a lot of red in that book, and I mean, we can only put that out so long, we can't afford to pay, then we'd have to go up to 8 mil to pay for it all.
Yeah, but I mean, and the notion that it's gonna delay a bond or anything, I think we might as well get out of it, because as soon as this bond expires, there's gonna be another one to replace it. That's just the nature of all that. But no, I mean, I do think that we can work our way back to it, but there was no point in doing it last year if we're gonna double everything up this year. All it did is make it harder for people to budget from year to year. We should have just left it alone. Because we could have just done. Yeah, well, no, it was the right thing to do then, and incrementally doing it back so that we don't put a huge increase on this year is okay too. I don't remember saying no to a single purchase or a single project that was presented this last year. So I have trouble thinking that we're crying poverty when the amount of money we just spent on lights, the amount of money we spent on seats, all of these things that are a little extraneous. I think that we will have to be a little more conscious about it, but I don't think it's going to stop dead in its tracks just like someone who gets passed on a 10% increase in their tax burden has to be a little more conscious. It's just about trying to thread the needle, to use the terms that I've heard, to make it fair as we can to the district and as fair as we can to the patron. So Lonnie, when you do that, you have to look, you're putting 100% on the district needs. I feel like we as elected people have to look out for patrons as well. And that's, yes, and so that's all I'm trying to do. It is more money than last year. It's not as much as you're recommended, as you've recommended, and I understand that. What I'm trying to do is allow us to increase, but maybe strike a balance to where it's a more palatable increase that we can continue to go forward with. So
What is a mill equal?
Not, except in the general fund, in the other funds, 152. In the general, it's 100.
So we'd be at
That's
100.
different.
So if we do 5 instead of 6,
You're adding 152,000 versus what we had in that. And then on the flip of that, if you don't go to 6, you're foregoing 150. So it's.
and for what it's worth with LOB, you really can't mess with it if you don't want to go negative, because interestingly enough, if we went to 30 like we were last year, because general is lower, it would go negative. It's only a 1.92, it's less than 2%. It's a 1.92% increase this year. So, and bond and interest is what it is. Capital outlay is the variable.
And what's in our plan for this year? For the facility wise?
Biggest thing, probably your biggest, I said the high school parking lot and that HVAC, remember we visited with, we understand we've got units that are going out, starting to build. You were always gonna have to waterfall that situation anyway. There's no way, I don't care if we set it 8 unless we go through this district to fix all that. You're going to have to pick and choose, and it's probably gonna have to look like maybe you do the elementary school with 3 fell swoops instead of 2 or something like that's what you're gonna have to do.
And do we have to approve the budget tonight?
For publication.
This is you're gonna approve it only for publication. You would approve it at the September board meeting. It's a publication, this is gonna go out in papers and people can come in and speak their piece about it at that point in time, and then you go ahead and vote. And you do the R&R on that same day, too, right before we set that one up at 6:55 p.m. or 5:55, sorry, old time. 5:55 and then 6 o'clock on we have to advertise. All you're doing tonight is you're approving for publication. But I would never recommend that you approve publications and change it and go upwards.
You're basically set.
Yeah, you're basically setting your budget.
Yeah.
Yes. Pretty much, yeah, I guess. Jackie, pretty.
What if you went to
That's
5?
what I heard.
What if you went to 5.5 mils?
Then you'd be probably 12 something. I mean,
If you went a full straight mill to 5.123, 4.123, it's gonna gain us not much. I mean, that difference between 123.
yeah, I'm kind of hanging on to that single digit versus double digit increase.
123.
So your recommendation then, Ian, is to do 5 mil in capital outlay, not 6.
Correct.
$18,600.
So an extra 18,000.
And it's not fun. I mean, none of this is fun. I don't want to starve the district. I mean, it is, and again, where it's not less money, it's more money. It's just not as much more money. But I mean, those are the variables we've got. The way that the assessment has gone up gives you the formulation, and you go one way, it's going to do one thing. You go another way, it's going to do another. Capital outlay is always going to be a running list, and things move from year to year. But it's just, I don't know. I just wanted to put not the full picture, including the taxpayer impact in front of it. So that's why I shared that. I'm sorry if you need reading glasses to look at it.
I was like, I got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Hold on, I learned a new trick. Did you know if you take a picture of it?
Yeah.
I was like, I still can't read that.
within that,
My daughter.
5 mil, it would be 4.46 increase to the local tax.
From, yes, exactly, which when you look at the over and under on that, that comes out to right at 10% increase to homeowners. But to Lonnie's,
That's on top of like the elect, so mine went up roughly 12%.
no, that would be the total average. It's not, we wouldn't compound it past that.
The other thing I was trying to point out is comparing to last year was an amount. As far as what we did different.
Mhm.
I just asked you to keep that in.
Because
Right.
we've been at 6 for
Yeah.
ever except for last year.
Mhm.
We had a few things that kind of broke in our favor. One of them was at-risk funding and how things were changing. And that gave us a little bit of carryover that, and we knew we were gonna have that going into it. Now we don't, that doesn't exist. So truly, it's on the way to capital outlay.
Right.
And that's what, we had last year was an interesting opportunity and it was a good time. We talked about that and I said, of all the years to do it, this would be the year to do it. Because we won't have that opportunity again.
But you can't neglect it. This is a contract or contradicting you, but Jackie, to your point about it, so it's been 6, it's been 6. A few years back, our capital outlay, actual expenditures was like $400,000. Valuation has shot up a ton in just in the last 5 years. So you know what 6 mils is today versus what 6 mils was historically is radically different as well.
Costs of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were only in your initial budget presentation that you sent us, there was 2 years. So that's really all the further that I look back, but I mean, you can go back and it just, but the number on the page is only part of it. You got to look at the whole formula.
7 years ago, we're in one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
126 or something like that. So all the new businesses that moved. Well, you know, there are other entities that are having these tough conversations. I know the city is, I'm not sure about the county. So anyway, they'll have their conversation, what coming up here.
I think the city's probably tonight. County, was it this morning that just haven't reported on that? They meet every Monday.
But that was 30% increase.
That's what was on my revenue neutral sheet for sure. So.
Any more discussion about budget?
And I mean, we can always hope that next year those things equalize. Hopefully we've crested the hill of the huge valuation increases. It's a little more normalized next year. And if not, everybody will be a year older and wiser and we can do what we need to do. So. But you guys, I just, like I said, wanted to put it out there.
I dug out an email from Levi that shows what was spent on capital outlay. For 23-24 was 610,000. In 22-23, we spent 1.5. And the year before that was good 1.02. The track.
Bigger projects are done in the summer, and almost every time they will go into 2 different fiscal years, not necessarily even by anything, but they will lead from one into the other. And it's just the nature of where we have our fiscal year set.
I asked specifically about the gym seating and you said that would have been both, yeah.
This track would have been both. I mean, it all comes out in the wash regardless of which year it is. Because that money, you don't spend it, it's just sitting there accumulating. So it's all going to come out in the wash regardless of what year it is.
Was there a motion? Discussion over anything else?
I say split the difference. That's 5,
Wouldn't-
lying on 6.
4 to 6, 3, 5.
Well, I want the 4.123. That's 5 was splitting the difference.
5.0.
Yeah, if you want to average those two.
I don't think 18,000 is gonna make a bit of difference.
No.
That's what 0.123 is.
Mhm. But,
Greg, is that a motion?
Sure, move it along.
What was the number exactly?
Go to 5.5 mils.
5.5.
Five-
We're at 4.123.
5.5.
Second. Motion, second to approve the budget for notes. Do you have to change that or?
To publish the budget reflecting, the change in mills to 5.5. I think that's probably how you-
To publish the budget with changing the mills at 5.5
in capital outlay.
in capital outlay.
Should that fail, I suppose, make a motion to do it at 5.
All in favor for the 5.5, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
Motion passed 43.
Okay, no worries again.
Okay. That's 11. Matthew, would you like to from special ed?
Well, we're gonna start the school year staffed, super excited. We have a teacher doing the, something already, it's, I don't think of the acronym, but it's essentially where we get to grow our own, special ed teacher and, Sarah E. has.
Registered teacher apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Thank you, RTA. So super excited. We have one going through the interlocal. She's starting already and Sarah E. is gonna be her mentor. Super excited to see that happen. We have a couple more interested to start in the spring semester. I think three possibly four. So that's really exciting to be filling our own teachers here in Hiawatha, and they get to work for us at the same time. With the big, their tuition's taken care of.
And they get a pay raise.
They get a pay raise. It's really, really cool. Super proud of, the interlocal bringing that up
And it's not just interlocal, anybody.
anybody can
Any
do
teacher can do
it, but we have one right now with the interlocal and three possibly. Did Horton have one, maybe?
Maybe in the spring.
Maybe in the spring, Horton might have one. Really excited about that. Their budget or their finances, they went through their financial audit. Amy was off like $4,000 like she does every year. She's just spectacular. I'm looking at you because you sit right next to me. What else did we really go over? They're doing their convocations
They did it, I think.
this
last-
morning, right?
Yeah.
Because they were just gonna do it half a day. But yeah, the big thing is we're starting staffed with 42 paras on a budget of 47. And we've got all of our teaching positions filled.
What happened to that extra money?
What extra money?
You said you have a budget for 47.
No, her financials, her audited financials, like she was off.
It just carries over.
It's all
Well,
Extra-
they'll hire more pairs.
Yeah, hopefully.
Fill some of those.
She used to be budgeted for like 55.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't
And
know
we-
which four you were asking me about.
She's lowered that and then up salaries.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've done some nice salary bumps over there, and then they start IDD next Monday night, and start.
Has the plumbing and all that.
No,
They're
There today.
they started today. He was on vacation, so they've been walking over to the ag building or taking their lunch breaks to use the bathroom.
Yes. We love getting for 2 weeks. So.
Yeah. It started today. But they don't have any students in that building starting in the school year, so it's just admin staff that are in there right now. Or will be in there.
It does kind of free up some opportunities. I think you leave room just unused. There are times when we have some staff training needs to go on during a school day, and it isn't always that the Fisher Center would be available because they book too, and there is a room now there, once we have restrooms, water and things like that over there that could be used for for specific purposes, certain trainings that need to go on.
Yeah.
Should we could have a board meeting? Just things like that, just know that is, the building is owned by us, so. it's from-
Or did you get some of the checking?
I don't know, that's a Levi
She was
question,
gonna-
$1, do we pay?
Yeah, she was gonna mail it Wednesday.
She was gonna mail.
I haven't seen it yet, but that doesn't mean,
Super, super proud of.
I think I'd remember it.
And Amy and the work that, and everybody else that, for the work they did, putting their puzzle together over the summer, so that we're starting staff.
I move we go into executive session with Mr. Moser for 20 minutes to discuss employees pursuant to non-elected personnel. Decision under public writing, we know.
No.
No.
Good job.
And great.
Second, second, moved and second to go to executive session for 20 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, say no, motion passed 7-0. Okay, back to executive session, and we have any action?
There was.
Are you on? Yeah. I'll leave it.
Thanks. I move to accept the resignation of Dalton Witt as HHS assistant football coach.
Moved and second to accept the resignation of Dalton Witt as HHS football coach. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0.
I move to accept the resignation of Becky Schamberg as HHS track coach.
I'll second that.
Move in second to accept resignation of Becky Schamberg as HHS track coach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0.
I move to. I recommend to appoint Cheyenne Brown as HES para for the 24-25 school year.
Moved in second to appoint Cheyenne Brown as HES para. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0.
I recommend that we appoint Kate Paulson as HMS assistant football coach. Second.
Moved in second to appoint Kate Paulson as HMS assistant football coach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0. Okay.
I move that we go into executive session to discuss confidential, or wrong one, employer-employee negotiations for 5 minutes.
Second.
Moved and second to executive session for 5 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0. How much? Getting there. You still have to look at this.
There you go.
All right,
Action following executive session.
yes.
I think Ian's, do you have it in?
No, I'm
I
lost.
got
now.
it.
Good.
Hold on. I knew that we approved the master agreement changes as presented for the 24-25 school year.
Second.
All right, move the second to approve the master agreement changes for 2024-2025 school year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0. All right. John, congratulations. 5 minutes.
Here's another one.
We can go to 3 if you want. Oh, excellent.
How about we just do,
We're gonna, I need 1 minute to walk now.
okay, three.
Let's do it.
I don't start until you're in.
Huh?
I won't start till you're in.
Oh,
Yeah,
Three.
I don't start till I hear the door shut.
I didn't know, hey.
Hey, hold on. Move to executive session for 3 minutes.
Second.
Move
Moved
to
and seconded.
Well, who moved?
Jackie in Brooklyn.
Okay.
second move, executive session. For 3 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0.
Well,
The chair.
Okay, we're executive session for 3 minutes. Do you have anything, the action?
I move that we accept the early graduation request as submitted.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0. I move to adjourn the meeting.
I only saw one.
There's two, it should be two.
There's only one.
Look at you.
I see one.
I only saw one in there.
Is it a boy or a girl?
Male.
The girl I sent a week ago.
On the look, I don't think.
Would you come to executive session? Do you have the name? And would you come to executive session real quickly, and give that good? If somebody would move to go back in executive session for 2 minutes.
All right.
Second. Go back in session for 2 minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no.
Let that you know.
So, okay, so we need to do a one strategic on the finish.
I would just do the second one as submitted, so I think you just say.
That we accept the early graduation request for 2 students as submitted.
Who does second to accept the early graduation request? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Who is second to adjourn? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you, everybody.
Weston.